Hello and welcome to yet another Connected. This is episode number 4, and today we have 3 amazing guests with us. We will start to talk about the environment together with Henrik Lampa from Dustin. We will then talk a bit about resilience, personal resilience. I'm not really sure what that means, but we'll know in about 20 minutes or so. And we will end today's stream talking with Alexandra first from Dustin about, is this the new normal? How are we going forward after this big change in digitalization? And those 2 last guests there, I just want to mention, were the 2 speakers of Dustin's last Women in Business event, an event we do to promote women in business, and is also a network to connect and such. And if that sounds interesting, please follow us on LinkedIn and you'll get all the information on when we do the next event. But now, let me introduce the first guest, Henrik Lampa. Hello and welcome.
Hi there, thank you for having me.
And let's start with the classic question. What do you do at Dustin?
So I am head of corporate responsibility, and that means that I work with our responsibilities from a social and environmental point of view, and interact with our organization and externally as well to drive this forward together with my team.
Okay, so if something has to do with corporate responsibility and the environment and how we work with that, you're the one in charge of it.
Correct, together with my friends.
Of course.
Yep.
And last time we met and talked to each other in a situation like this, we sat down and talked about circularity and circular economy and how that can make our world a better place, and not only the world but also maybe businesses. And for those interested in that, you can find that on our YouTube channel, where you can see a short interview with Henrik talking about circular economy. But that's not why we're here today. Today we're going to focus on something else. And what's that?
So I want to talk about being connected and how that is, what's kind of environmental impact you can see in that, and sort of the test bed of digitalization that we have today.
Yeah, because there has been a big change in the world. I'm almost getting tired of saying this every interview I do, but that has impacted the environment as well. What can we see right now happening all around the world?
Well, I think you can see some temporary changes, some temporary alleviation from pressure of industries and pressure of traffic and so on. That you can measurably see that some of the emission levels, some of the pollution is actually going down. You can see that in water, you can see that in air. And I think a lot of those sort of changes are more of a sort of a short-term benefits. Like when people come back to Venice, probably the waterways will get polluted again in a similar way. But I think you can also see a lot sort of positive changes that will carry with us going forward.
But you don't think it's possible to see how beautiful the water in Venice is right now, and that people will try to see how can we keep it this way when they're back? Or
I probably we will see some such effects, but it's really hard to see. I hope we can definitely get inspired and learn that sometimes nature can actually come back. I think that's really positive to see that some of these changes can go back to sort of how things has been.
It's not just that. Okay, if we try to make them come back, it will take so and so many years. It can actually go quite quickly if we do a big change as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I think there has been some such inspiring example. I'm afraid some of these will probably, when things go back to a new normal, some of those benefits will probably disappear as well.
But are there any areas then where you think this the world we live in today will actually change also the future when it comes to the environmental impact.
Yeah. So I think when it comes to interacting with people, when it comes to meeting people, I think that now we have really sort of put a turbo in behavioral change, because having digital meeting has been available for quite some time, but it has been something that people from, I think, from more of a habitual point of view, hasn't really embraced in such a way that we have been forced to do in this last couple of months now. I think that people have really learned that quality of interaction can really be there. In the past, default meetings were happening, including mobility. You needed to move somewhere with your car, with your plane. That had a cost in, of course, it had a financial cost. It also took a lot of your time, and it also had a climate impact, typically.
Yeah.
So I think there you can see something that we have learned by really being forced to use digital meetings and see.
Yeah, because like as you said, nothing is new. We could have done what we do today last year or even earlier if we wanted, but now
Correct.
we were forced to. And because I still know people who do not think a digital meeting, new people before
Yeah.
a couple of months ago that
Yeah.
didn't think digital meetings were as good as a real meeting, and therefore
Exactly.
went out of their way to really, no, I need to sit face to face and things like that. But many of them have changed opinion now.
But I agree.
But you think that will that won't be a temporary change, that the people when they go back to the office like, but it is so nice to just meet people and there, so I'll fly to my next meeting instead.
But I think the workplace as such, I really miss seeing my colleagues every day. I think that part, I really think that has a benefit. I think I'm longing to those days when I can start to interact in the office again. But I think when it comes to meeting people in other locations, in other location in the city, in other location in a country or in other countries, we will see that. I don't think this means that we will not meet each other, but I think that it means that we don't need to meet physically as often. And what we are doing in between is adding a lot of quality meetings instead. That we don't need to plan these meetings as much. We don't need to spend as much money to do that. So I think that there is a lot of win-wins that we have actually seen by this behavioral change that we have been forced into.
Yeah. But you think like working from home is, of course, like most people do that today, most that can at least.
Exactly.
If they continue even afterwards to work home, say just one day every week,
Sure.
could that impact the environment? Because that person would otherwise take the subway or a bus or a car or something like that.
Yeah.
We'll just, if everyone who's working at an office takes one day at home every week, could that have a real environmental impact, you think?
No, but
That's just an idea I have.
No. But I agree. I think that now that I have 0 days in the office for so many weeks, I would be super happy with having one or having two.
Yeah.
Or 4 would really be such the big difference with today. So
Meeting people.
No, exactly. So I think meeting people want to do, but I think we can definitely see such benefits as well, because I personally didn't believe I could really create things at home, more than, I have this very big thing to do. I can do that in an evening and sit there and read and do things. But I didn't think I could work from home. I really realized I can really do that, and it can be really productive.
Could we see, just to change that, can we see anything negative about all the people working from home when it comes to environmental impact and things like that? I don't know if we need to buy more things, or is there anything?
I don't know. I think
That's a hard question, maybe.
It is a hard question. One of the things that we have seen, now is, I think from a sustainability point of view, obviously this crisis has hit us hard from the financial point of view. Finance is really one of the three pillars of sustainability. So that is, I think I think the crisis has shown a lot of negative things, of course, that we can see when we are not meeting each other. I can see more of the benefits that I feel, me as a person, meeting and engaging with people on sort of by the coffee machine. I solve a lot of problems at work by the coffee machines,
Yeah.
and sort of the threshold of communication is lower when you can meet people. So, also.
But is there anything, like, as you said, there were a lot of like short-term things happening, and is there something we could do to try to keep this change? Do you have any ideas of both how businesses could uh, try to keep this environmental positive that has happened
Yeah.
as well when we look forward now?
I think that so I think from a meeting point of view, it doesn't make any sense to have as many physical meetings as we used to have, considering the climate impact it has. So I think when you look at it from a strategic point of view, to have fossil-free mobility, that will take time. We start to see that on cars, but we're far away from that when it comes to planes. Still on cars, it's a big journey to do. But you can have fossil-free meetings today being digital ones. So I think that now that we have realized that we can also have a lot of quality in that, we are saving time. I don't need to travel back home in the evenings and miss time with my family, and have good interaction that is developing dust in my instance or the company. To me, that is a no-brainer that we will see a reduced need for physical meetings.
Do you think companies should like set some maybe rules or strategic like, no, right now try to have these and this many meetings every week in this form, or could is it possible even to try to set goals and rules to make people be more digital even after this from an environmental standpoint?
No, but I think
or
like
will it just happen
I
organically?
think that in the past people or companies had a travel policy,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then they had a meeting policy. I think that those two will totally merge together. So you will, and that will also be impacted by the company's sort of increased climate agenda going forward. The whole society needs to go to zero climate emissions by 2050, and of course, whatever we can do, and that can sort of add value on that journey, I think we will do that. And if you can have when you can have meetings that is at times even better or less costly and so on, I think that is sort of the behavioral change we have gone through will.
Yeah, because it saves both environmental cost and also the real cost.
Exactly, and time.
Yeah, and time. Time is money.
Time is money.
But like, but as you say, travel policies and things like that, and many companies do have this goal to be emission free or something like that.
Yeah.
Almost every company today has some sort of environmental goal.
Sure.
So it maybe before this, I have never heard of a company doing policies when it comes to meeting based on the environmental goal. Do you think we'll see more of that now when we see the impact it has?
Yeah, well, I have looked at travel policies with sort of sustainability glasses, and then you can see some words around that, obviously, but it has been more like try to reduce travel or so. But I think that in the past it has more been of a trade-off of if I don't travel, I will have less quality interactions. And that has been, I don't want to sacrifice that. I think what we have realized now is you don't need to sacrifice that. You can, if you add more digital interactions with those people far away, you are then increasing the interaction, the relation that you have with that person, or what
Instead
you can get
of
out of
traveling once to have a meeting, you can meet 3 times spread out instead.
Exactly.
Because if you just go by time,
No, exactly. And the speed of setting up a meeting, if you have this mobility part of it, it is sort of a threshold because then you need to plan and it takes time. But I can set up such a meeting in no time today.
Nice. But can we see any other things being impacted by this digitalization, and so, or is it meetings that we should focus on to be able to not travel as much, be more digital in that way, or uh, is it also, I don't know how much you have had the time to go into that, but like uh, digital equipment, working space.
Yeah.
Maybe people don't need as big as offices, and we get more condos for people or
Yeah.
whatnot. Like, have you any thoughts on other things that could see any?
Yeah, but if you zoom out and look at the whole digitalization, I think where we are now, we are also realizing that we look more into what's the output, what is desired, what is something that our customer wants to reach. They want to have a challenge-free IT environment, for example, and then they start. So then we can start to open up the circular discussion that you referred to in the beginning.
Yeah.
I think that's a big one, obviously, that we as a company get more and more interested in understanding how we can solve problems for the customer and have such a discussion, which means that we are dematerializing also what we are offering them. We have a hardware that we can work with modularly, we can upgrade it, we can sort of solve their problem, and they will be more agnostic to what kind of hardware is that. And then they can focus on whatever is the core of their business. So I think there you have obviously huge resource implications. You will save resources by doing that. You will put down costs as well
Because that's one of the big things happening right now when it comes to the environmental impact of digitalization.
Sure.
If we go outside of this moment right now.
No,
what's
exactly.
happening.
Exactly. And then if you talk about that circular agenda, which I can talk about forever, of course.
Yeah,
but
and
then,
you're
then
not
you
going to do that
no,
today.
exactly. But just to add, of course, there you have also a lot of climate benefits. So I think both the climate agenda from a meeting point of view and that other from a circular point of view gives climate impacts and or climate savings that we anyway need to work with going forward.
Thank you very much, Henrik, for your insights in this, and hopefully you can come back later on Connected and we can talk about that circularity and circular economy when it comes to digitalization as well.
For sure.
But now we are going to have a 2 minutes break before our next guest, which is Ann-Sofie Forsmark, who's going to talk about personal resilience, something that's very important now when everyone's working from home. But one more thing, as you may have noticed if you came from social media and so, that Henrik was not the image you saw for the first that was supposed to talk now. We had a small cancellation here. I forgot to mention that in the beginning, but hopefully you found this equally interesting, and we'll try to have that guest back at a later date. But now, a 2 minute break, and we'll be right back.
We keep things moving. We keep things flexible. We keep things growing. We keep things developing. We keep things safe. We keep things connected, protected, in line, on time, and online. We keep things social. We keep things interesting. Sometimes maybe too interesting. We keep things simple. We keep things steady. We provide you with the right IT solution at the right time, at the right price, with one purpose: to keep things moving.
And welcome back. We are here now with our second guest of this Friday stream. And that is Ann-Sofie Forsmark. Welcome to Connected, Ann-Sofie.
Thank you so much. An honor to be here.
And I know that you are an expert when it comes to personal resilience.
Let's hope so.
Two words that for me, like, I know what they mean, but I don't know what they mean. What is a resilience expert, a personal resilience expert?
Well, I guess you could switch the word to personal sustainability, for example. But I think resilience sort of it involves a little bit more, because resilience, it comes from nature science, and it has to do with the ability to bounce back from problems. But as I see the world today, we also want to move forward. We just don't want to handle problems. We also want to develop and move forward. So creating a personal resilience, for me, as a metaphor, is having sustainable habits in your professional life as well as your personal life that sort of gives you your hands free to do whatever you want to do.
So it actually is what the word is, resilience against whatever can happen.
Yeah,
you
but also
build
the
up
things
your
you
own
want to do.
protection.
Yeah, your own protection. And obviously, for the kind of work that you do and other people do, you don't want to spend half your brain power during the day just setting up meetings and thinking about your sleep routine, your, how to set up your personal agenda and these things. They should be like a platform that you get up and stand on in the morning. So you have to spend some time to set these habits and get some skills and get some tools. But once you have them, you've got your hands free to take on life, whether it being coronavirus or something else.
Okay, this may sound strange, but would you say, like, Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, had one sweater he liked and ordered 20 of them?
Yes.
Is that like building? Because he told, like, I don't want to think about that. My brain power should go somewhere else. That may
Super
be
clever.
extreme, but that's what you're talking about.
And
Like
Angela
doing-
Merkel and Barack Obama had the same, plan. So yeah, that's a personal resilience habit that he had.
So I'm
Yeah.
doing it wrong, always thinking about what I have here and my
But
tie.
you dress
and-
so well. It looks good. Yeah.
Thank you, but I think a lot about it, and that's maybe brain power could go to something else.
Maybe you would invent something.
Because if
If
something
you dress the same
changed-
every day. Yeah.
Because what do I do then when something suddenly change and interrupts my behavior? Because I'm guessing that's why you want to build resilience.
Yeah, you want to
And right
build
now
resilience.
we see a big
Yeah.
change.
Yeah. Our resilience is being tested, I think, whether we use that word or not. Everyone's everyday life, perhaps professional life, and also health is being challenged at the moment. And so I find that I sort of land on a very strong net of my personal resilience habits that I have. And they have to do with having a strong purpose, having a strong social connection, good friends, family, but obviously also having like a sleep routine that actually enables me to wake up and have energy. Exercise habits, I'm not talking specific training, but exercise habits that I don't have to think so much about. I just do them because they're a part of my DNA. So that's what I see, that people are spending a lot of brain power, which is restricted. We only have so much brain power during the day, as Steve Jobs and his sweaters are an example of. And he knew that. So what do we want to use this brain power towards? And how do we ensure that when we wake up in the morning, the tank is full? And that has to do with our personal resilience. And then we have how we go about our day and how we set up our day. That's our more professional resilience habits.
Okay, but if we start with like the personal resilience, how can one work with that actively to build up his or her resilience?
Well, I think simplifying things is the first step, because if you go out on social media, it's really easy to sell products and services that makes this more complicated. So I think if you start with your values, I think you have a foundational value that is that you want to look after yourself. And I think if I just gave you a clear sheet of paper and you weren't allowed to Google anything, and I ask you, what do you need to feel well today and tomorrow and the next week, you would know. I'm pretty sure you have that knowledge within you. So I think it requires some reflection. First of all, what's important? What do I need?
Is that something people should do? Like really sit down with a piece of paper for themselves? Because just reflecting, maybe, I had a thought, but actually sitting down doing it.
So when do I feel full of energy? When do I feel clarity? When do I feel that I can focus? And when do I feel that, my social relationships are good? And who are those people? And sort of do that kind of inventory. And then you look at your life today and see, well, where am I in regards to this? And what do I need to do to move towards it? And then, as baby steps, like one thing at a time. But I really think it's going to come down to having something, what's in Japanese called Ikigai. Like you wake up in the morning.
What it is.
Yeah, you wake up in the morning and this is what I get up to do. It's really important to have that. And either you have to change what you do to find it, or you find it within what you do. What relationships do I have that I probably say that I don't have time to take care of, or you give these thumbs and hearts and social media. How do I make sure that I actually have this kind of contact? And then obviously the basic stuff, like how do I ensure that I have a sleep routine that actually supports me and actually put that into a context, rather than, everyone knows we need to sleep, but how many people do actually reflect on how my sleep affects my day? Like it's like thinking in syrup. And then the easy stuff, like I have to move and I have to eat well, but you probably don't need more knowledge about training, exercise and food. You just need to focus on getting it into action in your life. That's probably the problem.
But to challenge that thinking of some sort, like if you have too many habits and there are strong habits and that builds up your resilience, what happens if you need to change those habits like this? Something happens, like your habit may be taking a walk for a couple of kilometers to a bus stop instead of taking it right outside to go to work every morning. That's your like exercise. And you have a coffee and a sandwich at that coffee shop, like things like that. It just keeps you rolling on. And now the coffee shop is closed.
Yes.
And you're not going to the office anymore.
No.
What happens then if those are habits that you have used to build up your resilience with?
That's a really good question.
Because a habit can be good,
yeah,
but it can also be a weakness, according to me. Like, how do you...
Yeah, that's the difference between habits and routines. So again, if you back down to your purpose and your values, and then we come to my second favorite word in the world, is which being adaptive.
Oh.
So obviously your purpose and your goal is to have that coffee and to move, but you need to be adaptive in getting that done. So you work from home. And like we talked about before, you wake up about 1 meter from your office in the morning. Yeah, but like me. So then, you still need to get these things done, because it's the end result of them that you're after. It's not the walk in itself, but the end result. So then you come back to, you have to be adaptive. So you have to be very clear about where you're going and what you want to achieve, but how you get there. You need to be very flexible and be prepared. And so
like
my
that is that coffee shop.
No. The coffee.
It's having a coffee.
The coffee, yeah, exactly. So you have to be very adaptive. And there are business school studies done on this, where different groups are challenged with, and these are like business case studies. And the people who work adaptively, which I think Dustin and everyone else need to do at the moment, our purpose as a business is still there. But the way we go about it is completely different at the moment. So we need to work with being adaptive, both personal and at work.
Yeah, and that's very, like, what's happening right now really shows who's not and who is. Because everyone's life was just, change.
Yeah.
And therefore I think this is more important than ever to think about when it comes to personal health, at least for me, because I thought I was adaptive.
Yeah.
But I have seen things that, like, you learn about yourself now
yeah.
when everything changes.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Like, this is my high point of the week, getting to actually meet people.
Yeah, yeah. Like we said before, it's exciting. It's like coming into town and meeting people for real. It's exciting.
That is good. But you also mentioned professional resilience. So what's the difference there, and what is that?
So the personal resilience is going to encompass your working day as well, obviously, because that's got to do with you as a person. But what I see, because where I work is I work in the professional context, helping leaders and organizations to create resilience. I see that if what tends to happen is that it's no one's fault really, and no one wants anyone any bad stuff, but we sort of start our working day and then we get sucked into meetings, and we get sucked into structures that don't really help us working towards what we really want to do. And I hear so many people say, especially now, well, I'm in meetings all day and I have to work in the evenings. That's not sustainable resilience at all. So professional resilience, it's got to do with having, often it's actually mental tools and sort of tricks to ensure that when you spend time at work, you're actually doing the stuff that you need to do. And I would assume that people listening now, a lot of people work in perhaps tech industry or are very digital. But a lot of people, like you were saying as well, we spend a lot of time now in meetings. And meetings are good, they can be, but they can also be time consuming away from the things that we need to do. So professional resilience is having an understanding of what routines and structure I need to make sure that when I work, I do it in a resilient way. I'm getting the right stuff done. I'm embracing the restriction of time and focus that I have as a person, and ensuring that the time that I spend on the right things, and I ensure I do the right thing at the right time. Because you can probably know yourself that most people, when we wake up in the morning, that's our best time to focus. So we want to use that time. If I could, I would suggest everyone have meeting-free mornings. Meeting-free mornings where people get to do the stuff, the important stuff. And then when our brains are getting, distracted, that's when you have the meeting and you get to see people and, exchange.
When everyone just clicks off their webcam and fall asleep instead.
That's where you have the meeting. Yeah, not really. You need coffee then. Yeah.
Yes.
But sort of having a way to structure your day and learning a way to say no to things, like different ways to say no, because saying no to things means that you say yes to the stuff you do. Because so many people feel that you just ride along on someone else's agenda, and we sort of need to take hold of our day and create habits, tools, whatever it is, to make sure that we spend time and focus on the things that we really want to do.
How would you say, like, different businesses and companies, managers could help with this to make their employees actually take care and build professional resilience? Do you have any quick tips?
Yes, I have a quick solution. No,
Call
but
you.
three focus areas I would say is to reconnect to the bigger and smaller purpose often, and don't think that that's like a fluffy thing to talk about. But revisiting purpose is going to help us clarify what we need to focus on as an organization, but also in a meeting. I mean, imagine if everyone who were in a meeting requested a purpose of that meeting, and we could all see if we're heading towards it or not. So that's the first one. Request and search for purpose in everything that you do, because I'm pretty sure that everyone else with me want more time. So we don't have time to do things that lacks purpose. And the second thing I would say as leaders is, and as employees as well, is to clarify expectations. And don't think that we're being a pain if we're asking to clarify expectations, because a lot of the time, the people we hire, they have the highest of expectations on themselves. So clarify expectations. And as a leader, I might have to say that I expect of you that you don't work this weekend. I expect you to take time off, for example. So clarifying expectations, because when we do that, we can sort of, it will help me do the right thing, then often do less. Because if we lack expectations, we tend to do a bit more than we need to. And what was the third one? Oh, the third one is, as a leader, we tend to think that, our employees see that we take time off, but they tend to mostly see that we work. So we might have to be really clear on how we disconnect from work and share the way that we disconnect, because that would send a message to everyone else that it's okay to actually sign off. And there's a lot of research on what's called psychological detachment, which is that when we actually disconnect from work, we perform better at work. So
So when
yeah.
it's not like connected into my whole life is also my work, and I work a little bit there and a little bit there, is like scientifically bad, that it's better to try to actually have it more separate.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to do with perhaps location, but just a way to disconnect from work is going to let that frontal lobe
Yeah.
rest, and that's when everything is solving in the back of your mind. When you sleep on it and you wake up with the solution. So, psychological detachment. This is a Friday afternoon. A lot of people are about to hopefully detach from work and go home and actually have a little habit to do that. And as a leader, ensure that you communicate that I too detach and take time off.
That actually brings me up to one thing that for me has been very important, and that is the travel by subway home from work. Like a 30-minute break from everything.
Yeah.
It's just a podcast or something like that that disconnects me from my work life and my personal life. Because when I'm home, the personal life begins.
Yeah.
And now, when work ends and the personal life begins immediately, I don't get that mental break to like
No.
reset my brain. That's one thing I feel, at least.
But you can create it. You can create a mini routine to do it, and it will also help you. What did I learn this week? What was really good? What do I really need to remember on Monday? And let's write that down somewhere. That could be a mini routine to actually detach from work that you can do wherever you are. But because before you were helped by your transport.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Because it was just something that happened, but it helped me, and I had no realization in that,
No.
because it just was there. And now I have a realization that, I need something here. But we're almost out of time. So do you have any tips for doing things like that? How can I build my resilience right now when we are in challenging times?
Well, I think being with Dustin, you're super good at tech. Being very analog, a white sheet of paper, and try and write down the things that you think are really important to you and the things that you want to spend time on, and then being very honest with yourself and inventing how much time am I actually spending on this, and what could be the tiny baby step that I could start doing today. I would suggest to most people 3 things: getting more fresh air, going to bed a little bit earlier and sleeping the same hours during the week every day, and then having some time where you answer some reflective questions that you ask yourself every week. That's just 3 simple things that doesn't take much time, doesn't cost you anything, but it will help you create clarity and take you towards your personal resilience.
That's 3 very, very good tips that I know I'm very bad at.
I'll check in with you in a week.
That sounds good. Thank you very much for joining us, Ann-Sofi.
Thank you very much for having me.
Everyone is watching. I hope you thought that was as interesting as I thought. And we'll be back in 2 minutes with the next guest, which is Dustin's CEO, Alexandra Fürst, who will talk about, is this the new normal? The digitalization has been kick-started like a rocket right now when everyone needs to work from home. How will that affect the future? We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
We keep things moving. We keep things flexible. We keep things growing. We keep things developing. We keep things safe. We keep things connected, protected, in line, on time, and online. We keep things social. We keep things interesting. Sometimes maybe too interesting. We keep things simple. We keep things steady. We provide you with the right IT solution at the right time, at the right price, with one purpose: to keep things moving.
Welcome back to Connected. I haven't said my name, I just realized now. As I was going to say, I'm still Gordon Anderson. And now we're going to our third guest and last guest of the day. And that is Dustin's CIO, Alexandra Fürst. Welcome to Connected, Alexandra.
Many thanks.
And I said CIO. But I think your title is longer than that, actually.
I think the formal title is Executive Vice President IT and Digitalization. So CIO at Dustin means you're responsible for, of course, the full IT platform and also the digitalization journey that we're at. So I think what we're going to talk about today is really warm at heart.
Yes, because we have talked about digitalization before, not in what's happening today. And I'm going to do the same as I did with our first guest. That interview you should be able to see on YouTube. But when I say it, maybe it's not actually published yet.
Cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger. Go to our YouTube channel and have a look. There's a lot of interesting videos there and interviews with professionals all around. But today we are going to talk about... I set the headline to, is this the new normal? Because we can see something big happening right now.
Yeah.
What are we seeing?
We're seeing, I mean, we are in the middle of something so exciting in one way and so terrible in one way. So it's a major challenge that we are, as human beings, are standing in front of, actually. So we're going to touch upon how the digital transformation and the digitalization enables new ways of working in this situation. But with saying that, I also wanted to state that, I mean, this is a major crisis in many ways for many peoples, and it's actually taking lives and putting people in tough economic situations.
Yeah.
And I think also what's interesting now that Ann-Sofie talked about is the resilience part. I mean, the psychological negative effects that we see that isolation has on
I can see it.
on people, but we leave that for others to talk about. So we're going to focus on the pace of the digital transformation and how it's had accelerated over time. And of course, sustainable changes that we think will last in the future, in the new normal.
Yeah, because right now everyone was just forced to digitalize way faster than expected.
Yes.
Maybe some CIOs thought like, we have a couple of years, we'll fix this and this and this. And then suddenly, like, no, it needs to be fixed now. So the change went from not 0 to 100. It was already rolling, but really, bam. And how can we see that, like, what is that actually meaning for now and the future? Is it, we talked to Henrik about environmental changes where he said some things are, but it's short term, they're right now, but then they'll probably go back. How can we see that on the digitalization that's happening right now?
I call this a disruptive crisis, and I actually brought a picture that we can show to everyone, because why do I say that? Why do I think this is a disruptive crisis, and what does that mean? Well, it's actually to your point. We are seeing fundamental changes in behaviors and new ways of working. And this is creating new habits that we haven't seen before that will be sustainable over time, like Henrik talked about, and why also we need the Anne-Sophie thinking in this. So the definition that you should see right now is, I think, telling us what we're experiencing right now. And when we go 3 years ahead and look back, we will say, well, this was something really disruptive for humankind. And it says causing trouble and therefore stopping something from continuing as usual. I think that's really good.
And it's not as usual right
No,
now.
it's not as usual. And when it comes to more business side, it's changing the traditional way that an industry operates, especially in a new and efficient way. So, I mean, I think for us now to approach this situation from a digital perspective is what we should focus on.
Yeah, because this is, as you say, it's changing people's behavior. It's disrupting habits, as we talked about earlier. And it's going very, very fast. And we can see those changes happening all around. It's not just the personal things that we talked about earlier or the environmental. And because like the whole of society is changing, not just me. And I thought we talked a bit earlier and you said like there's 3 different, like you can see it in 3 different ways. The individual change, the changes for businesses and the societal change. And I would like to hear your thoughts there, like individual change. What can we see happening right now that you think will stay with us even after this crisis?
And just as a remark, I thought what Anne-Sophie said about reflection. I mean, take your time also to reflect upon how this has affected you as an individual, of you as an employee at a company, or you as a citizen in a society. I think it's a good opportunity because when I did that, there's so many changes, and it happened, and you don't really notice it. So it's really interesting.
Like you're changing yourself, and then, as you said, reflecting. And if you don't reflect, maybe you don't even see you're changing, but there's small different things all over.
And that is like the new normal that we talked about.
Yeah, because that's the thing. I can see, like I'm actually talking to my family almost more right now, just because the digital communication, the social part of digital is like it's the standard now. It's talked about in every social media, and like, oh, we have this Zoom meeting here and Teams meeting there, and I Google Hangout my grandma and things like that. And that has made me use those services more.
Yes, and that is actually the first reflection on the individual, how we actually have adopted in this crisis or situation that we're in. I mean, everything work from home and the lockdown we've seen in certain companies or countries, and also the social distance that we should keep and not meeting in group, etc. Everything to clear out from the COVID-19. This has really been some sustainable change in how we behave. And I reflected on that because it was my birthday a couple of weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you. 27 as always. And then I reflected on, first of all, my own experience and how happy I was actually for all the people staying in touch. I was more happy than, I'm always happy when people stay in touch, but more happy. And also how others actually did more to reach out. So exactly what you're talking about, the social distancing that we need to keep enforces the human touch in a digital manner. So this is something that I think...
You think that'll stay?
Sorry?
You think that'll stay with us
I think that will stay. And you said also, I mean, I've been to digital after work, so I've been to digital coffee with my friends. And I think there's other ways to connect and really stay connected than we have experienced. Oh, before it was more like we need to meet, and that's something that we can solve in different ways.
The digital after work there, I had a couple of those as well, and that was for me, like I'm quite digital. I work with digital and I love it, and nothing is new, but I've never had a digital after work before, and right now it's like,
why not? Why not? Yeah,
because this
you
is
can do it again.
Amazing.
Yeah,
and but like. That part of interaction, I don't want to get rid of it when we're back to normal. And
I don't think we will. I think it will stay. I think we will reconsider, and also how much it gives to actually see each other via a digital tool. Even it says something much more than just giving a call or sending a text. So
Yeah,
it's a
but
difference.
this is also something that probably most people can relate to in some way or another. But if we go to the business part of it, what's happening there?
So many things, and there's so many things to talk about when it comes to companies. And I mean, there was one example I want to tell you that was this planning for a rollout of an Office 365 adoption plan. So everybody in the company should really adopt to. And then I think it was 2 weeks in the plan, and then the work from home policy came, and whoops, everybody was on Office 365 working in Teams, etc. So that plan was just to throw out of the window. And the thing is, it actually worked. So I think people in corporations as employees has taken more responsibility in understanding that I need to learn this. I need to be more digital. And that is also a trend we see in the individual part, that the digital awareness and the maturity of using different tools has really increased with this.
Yeah, because people just need to learn them
Yeah.
instead of being like, I don't need that right now.
So we talk a bit with internal Dustin saying what happens in a couple of years normally has now been squeezed to a couple of weeks. I mean, it's really a leap that we see for corporations. But you can't talk about corporations if you don't talk about e-commerce. I mean, the e-commerce boost that we've seen with this is huge, and really having a good customer experience, being intuitive. I also talked to some grocery companies where they have actually now have the 60 to 80 years old going e-commerce when shopping food, and that's been very hard to target previously. So it is a big change. And
because
again,
that change we've seen in a couple of years, like ordering your groceries online, but it's still a very small part of the
Yes.
grocery shopping.
Yes.
Or at least it was.
yes, it's increasing day by day.
Do you think that will also be, because I'm one of those that actually goes to the store.
That's fine. We'll transform you.
But like I can see the value of not doing that now when I need to do it. But like that is still that's a old business model, or so to speak. Can we also see those things happening, like, because what's it called? The father of all invention is I'm losing the word, but a classic saying, and that's the crisis right now leads to innovation and
Yes.
probably new business models.
Yes.
Do you have any examples there or thoughts?
Yes, that's actually also one of the things I see, that creativity and innovation and to address old problems or new problems, because it really can be both, because you need to change with digitalization is happening. And if you live in Sweden, you've probably heard of God Hjälp, Good Help, which is a marketplace, an app where you can volunteer if you're not in a risk group, an elderly, to deliver grocery or pharmaceutical stuff to them. And that's something that we haven't had before, and wasn't even the need for it. So it's also different needs that had arisen with this.
But those needs that have risen now, you think those will be part of, like, even when they're not needs, they will be nice to haves that you expect to be there, a part of society after this?
I think so. This example, they state actually it's during the corona epidemic, but in general, yes, there is a stickiness to digital tools, as you describe.
Yeah.
I mean, I will probably keep this digital after work. There's a stickiness, and as long as it's very intuitive and you like it and it brings value to you, it will stay. So definitely it will be there, I think.
So we see e-commerce booming, and also home delivery, of course.
Yes.
And home delivery in businesses you never thought were
Yes.
going to have home delivery.
Yes.
And that will probably stay after this as well, if we just look into the future and hope, at least. I hope it all stays.
No, but I think it will. You will reconsider the way you do a lot of things as a company. Also, what's efficient and how to reach the new market groups or the same market groups that you have been addressing. So there is a time for corporations to really use that, creativity package that's built in. But again, that's easy to say. It's harder to do because, as we know, there's a lot of companies or corporations in a tough situation right now. So you need to get the energy to really do that.
Now we're actually going to take a couple of minutes to another topic I know you
Yes.
you really like, and that is innovation.
Yes.
How, as a company right now, you need to innovate. You
Yes.
need to follow what the customer needs, and the
Yes.
customer needs different things now.
Mm.
Like that, their needs changed. You need to follow, but to follow, you need to innovate. Do you have any, like, how can you start to think about that? And like, how do you start innovation and following the customer?
It's hard, and I'll try to wrap up with that also, because it's about finding the energy to that and staying close to the customer and the trends that we talk about now and the behaviors that we see will change. If you stay close to that, you will find new ways and new way of thinking. But also to as Ann-Sofie talked about, it's your responsibility as a leader. It's also about to actually put that on the agenda. Even though it's tough times, and you should look at company resilience, of course, also.
Yeah.
But I think that will be my message, to keep the curiosity and keep the curiosity on the trends, the technology and the behaviors, to be able to cater for that.
Yeah. Also, to go back to Ann-Sofie once again.
Yes.
She talked about like the resilience and that, but also the most important word, be adaptive.
Yes.
And that is exactly
there you have
the
it.
same.
There you have it.
And the third thing then, society. How what's your thoughts there? I'm going to just leave it open
Oh wow,
here for
that's good. I think first of all, my reflection was on the digitalization of public services and well-being that we've seen. I mean, I have consumed theater from Dramaten online, and you can consume opera or concerts, and of course things that normally kept you away from the screen or digital tools now actually is there. I think about yoga classes and group training, etc. So there's a huge change in society when it comes to how to digitalization of public services, in a sense. I think that also has a leap.
Like those things you never thought, like, of course, going to the gym is going to the gym.
Yes.
How can that be digital?
Yes.
It's physical work in a real environment.
And even in those areas where we've had digital tools available, I think the usage and the understanding, wow, this also works. This suits me.
And some things are even better. You said the public space there. There I want to be, my girlfriend works as a teacher. And she has never had as high as attendance in her classes as when they moved to digital.
Yeah.
Of course, it's not for everyone, but they can really see some gains which they didn't think, because it was just moving the classes online because you had to. But now you can see it actually affecting some things you hadn't thought about. And I think those things are very interesting to see in society, because that may help the people who can't go to school, have like some sort of like fear or not, can be schooled in a digital way, which may not have been even a thought earlier before this.
And I think that is something that will stay. I mean, now I was so amazed how a school that I'm more related to actually just switched to being digital. And I mean, also the students, they are very, very adaptive. They can relate to, and I think that will stick. It will be kept, because now you have experience how you can actually have exams or workshops or classes via the computer. Yeah, so that's definitely something that we've seen that will stay.
And people can tune into Connected to learn all about
yes,
it.
yes, that's good.
But do you have any ending thoughts about this? Because we're running out of time.
Oh, we are.
Sadly.
I have so much things, and I think you also have reflections on what to... what's happening in society, but again, it's so interesting topic. But ending words, I would like to again touch upon the opportunities. I mean, the positive side of this, and really encourage everyone to find the energy to grasp the opportunities that we have now in this situation with digitalization and new technology. So why not call for a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting or in any channel you like, and talk with some friends and just brainstorm about this. I think that would be
not just we need to do this now, therefore we do it. Instead, looking how can we use this
Yeah.
as a positive?
Yeah. And then I want to urge us all to stay curious and continue to learn, because just now, today, and yesterday, and tomorrow, we learn a lot of stuff that we can use as individual, as employees in a company. So keep that feeling. And then I read a quote from Simon Sinek that I wanted to share, something that I truly believe in. So I hope we have time for that.
Absolutely.
It goes like this: when we get through this, every handshake and hug will mean so much more. And that is really something I think we will experience, and I truly believe that.
That's a heartful quote,
Yes.
and I would believe that as well. Thank you very much for joining us, Alexandra.
Thanks for having me.
And everyone who is watching, thank you very much for tuning in to Connected. We'll be back next week, and next week will actually be on a Wednesday instead of Fridays. We're changing days from next week and onwards. So if you have tuned in every Friday so far, remember that from next week we will be live Wednesdays instead, in the middle of the week. Hope to see you there. Thank you very much, and follow us on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube to get updates on all the guests who are coming. Thank you.